Okay. Yard looks nice, Lloyd.
Yeah, mowed up pretty good, really. Yeah.
Who heard of mowing your yard before the 15th of April? That's just, when people say there's no global warming, I mean, used to be we had snow on the ground.
I saw quite a few tractors out in the field yesterday.
Yep. And I don't know what those guys are doing. Diesel fuel is astronomical now, and fertilizer. It would be tough. All right. Welcome to First Universalist of New Madison on this beautiful spring day. The flowers are out. Those didn't come from the garden, they came from the discount pot at Kroger. But I told my wife, I don't buy her roses very often, but when they're on sale, I'll buy her roses. So. And then I'll bring them here and take them back home again when I go. Thanks. Okay, any announcements? Don't think so. Don't think there's anything really coming up that we know about. So I guess just keep the faith and see who we can keep in contact with. I've not heard from anybody this week, so hopefully everybody's doing well. Prelude. If ever I would leave you. Tell by our PowerPoint, we are talking about the Antichrist this morning. That's primarily in Revelation, but the comparisons are just too unbelievable. And we'll do Revelation chapter 13, verse 3. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all of the world wondered after the beast. Do I have to draw a line and connect the dots here? The attempted assassination of our president, when his ear, according to one doctor, was shot off, and another doctor had a hole punched through it, had to have been enough to make blood. and now it is completely healed. And I can tell you from a medical perspective that cartilage does not grow back. You can ask the guy who was the boxer that bit that guy's ear off. If you bite somebody's ear off or punch a hole in it, it does not grow back. So interesting, and that's kind of what got me started on the whole Antichrist thing. Is the parallels are just pretty staggering. So we're gonna do a little bit of history and follow through on that. All in a good frame of mind with a good spirit. All right, chalice lighting. The great teachers in life. We are seekers. We are on a quest to discover truth and meaning. Sometimes we think we found it, wrapped up, glimmering with newness, straight off the intellectual assembly line. All the answers right here for us, and others if they would only listen. But truth has a way of coming in disguise, sometimes wearing rags, sometimes finery, but so often cloaked from our immediate sight, and sometimes that which we have rejected, that which we have let go of, or decided was only for others, but not us, can be our teacher. Let our time of worship be an acknowledgement of the never-ending journey toward truth and meaning, and our appreciation of those we learn from along the way. Words by Jason Cook. Opening hymn is number 11. O God of stars and sunlight. In this time of anticipated spring, let us allow ourselves to extend the anticipation, to value the time of budding before blooming, of seeding before sprouting. This is a time of revelation, the revealing of that which is eternal, which we see every year, but still need to be reminded to see it in a new way. There is also the revelation of that which is new, Every spring we encounter something never seen before. It is that newness, very newness, which embodies hope and potential for the wholeness which is yet to be. Let us allow spring to unfold slowly, that we may appreciate the true mystery of rebirth and renewal. Words by Teresa Cooley. Joys and concerns. It seems like war is always a concern. It never ends. Actually, it just spreads, which is kind of what goaded me into studying the Antichrist again. That we are being led or pushed or driven down the path of war. War in Israel, war between the Israelis and the Palestinians, and now war between the Israelis and Lebanon. And I talked to you before last week and maybe the week before, that's not Indiri, whatever the river is in Lebanon, I can't remember the name right now. Yeah. It's about 20 miles in, and the Israelis are doing exactly to that 20-mile stretch is what they did to Palestine. They are destroying every building. It is genocide in another picture. The Lebanese are saying that they are targeting EMS workers. A Catholic priest was killed trying to help survivors from an Israeli bomb strike, and they dropped another bomb on the rescuers to kill them. So a Catholic priest was killed. They've lost over 200 or 250 EMS workers. The Israelis say the Hamas uses the ambulances for weapons transport, but they have offered no proof of that, and no one else has got any proof of it. And what they have done is they've destroyed every ambulance they come across. And we know what the background, what the push is behind that. If you kill the ambulance people in the hospitals, they've blown up every hospital that's existed. It is a war of genocide to exterminate those people who live there and make greater Israel a reality. It's just unbelievable. So that is one war. Ukraine is another war. Basically, it's tit for tat. The Russians advance a little, the Ukrainians amazingly advance a little. It's basically, and the war which we were warned as the United States that if we target the civilization of Iran, if we target all of their electrical generating stations, all of their water purification outfits, that is a war crime. That is exactly what Russia is doing in Ukraine. They are targeting the electrical generation places and the places that generate hot water for heat. Luckily, winter is coming to an end now, but they did that over the entire winter. That is, by definition of the UN, a war crime. Now we have Iran, over 2,000 people killed in Iran, thousands and thousands of hits. The most amazing thing is, and this is why I came to the Antichrist, to hear the leader of the country and the leader of the Defense Department, or as it's called now, the War Department, brag that God is on our side and God is leading us to the destruction that we're doing. No God that we know as Unitarian Universalists, no God that Christians know condones war. If you remember, and I'll have that as the children's story, but I'll talk about it first. Billy Graham was at the White House basically saying that God is on our side and God supports that. And then you heard what the Pope said. The Pope said, God never supports killing. God never supports war. No matter who you are, no matter which side you're on, the Pope says and pronounced that God does not support that. What was the result? The Pope was actually threatened. The United States threatened the Holy See and said, you need to pick which side is the right side to be on.
Who's responsible for that?
It was one of the lower level people in the State Department. They didn't go to the Pope, they went to the Pope's representative in the United States, the Pope's ambassador, and said this, and he referred expressly to the Avignon. If you remember in your history that in France, The French king moved the Pope from Italy to Avignon to control the Pope and control what he wanted the Pope to say. And that was the reference that was given. They told the papal representative, you remember Avignon, you need to choose which side you were going to be on. What was the result? The Pope was scheduled to visit the United States in July. He canceled that visit. He said he does not feel safe in the United States. Can you believe that? The Pope canceled a visit to the United States because of the statement of our government. When we talk about the influence of the Antichrist, it's no longer kind of a funny little story or a joke. It is becoming a reality. All right. I guess we'll light a candle for our absent friends and colleagues. Haven't heard anything this week how anybody's doing. Hopefully they are all doing well. If anybody needs anything, have them give us a call. For some reason, and I think it's because of I posted on if you watch the YouTube or the Facebook channel, I posted some things about the demonstration in Greenville on the Facebook thing, and all of a sudden there's a lot more people harassing us now, but at least they're watching, so we'll see what that does. I get some pretty interesting comments. They say that I'm simple, and that's the reason I do what I do, and I actually answered back, that is actually a factual statement. I am simple. I'm a Church of the Brethren, a believer in simple living and the simple life of a farmer, and I am proud to be simple. So, all right. Anything that I forgot? All right, for those unannounced, unverbalized, maybe unrecognized cares and joys, sometimes you don't recognize a joy until it goes past, and then you realize what a good time it was, or what a propitious thing that happened, and you can go back and celebrate it then. All right, children's story. Actually, first we'll do. This is kind of a prelude to what we're going to talk about, but the Antichrist, and I wish Ty was here, how to philosophize with a hammer. This is a book by Nietzsche, who was a famous philosopher in the 1800s, and I'd read a little bit of his stuff, but never really paid any attention, but I started paying attention when we got to what we're talking about today, the Antichrist, because he talks about the Antichrist and philosophizing with a hammer. And he has a particular view that was used by the Germans in the 1930s, by the Nazis, because that view is to care for people, to be sensitive. DEI, in other words, is a terrible thing and a waste of human emotion and a waste of human effort. It's almost like the people we are seeing set our ideals and set our projects and set our goals in the government today are referring back to what he was talking about. So we're going to talk about that a little. But this is the story.
Billy Graham shows up at the White House yesterday to endorse the murder of civilians. Now, how do you do that? Well, by quoting something in the book of Esther. Why would Franklin Graham refer to the book of Esther, the only book in the Bible that doesn't mention God, when he talks about Christianity with the President of the United States? Because you can't mention Jesus, that's why. There's no evidence that Jesus was for genocide. This is God come to earth, the Christian Messiah, who allows himself to be tortured to death by pagans, because he's saying the real victory is bigger than any victory achieved by killing people. It's a victory over death itself. That's the opposite of the message you heard from Christian leaders at the White House yesterday. What does that tell you? The point is not that they're bad or silly or practicing another religion other than Christianity. Well, it's true. The point is that it's the end of something. Whatever that religion is not going to continue because it's a lie. Franklin, Billy Graham should.
You know who that is? Tucker Carlson, who has been a booster of the MAGA people from the very beginning, has now evidently, from what I can tell, turned against the MAGA people and is basically castigating them and holding them to account for what they say. When Franklin Graham goes to the White House and endorses the murder of innocent people, he's saying that they are no longer Christians, which is an interesting statement from Tucker Carlson, who has said some pretty outlandish things in his history. But that is an example of the fragmentation, of the disintegration, of the chaos that is now occurring across our nation. It's not just Tucker Carlson. There were 2 or 3 others. I got their names in here somewhere. Alex Jones, classic MAGA people who have been against liberals, against Democrats, are now saying what the administration is doing against all the principles of the conservatives of the United States. We are in a time of great interest and a time of great uncertainty, and that makes things dangerous all along the board. Okay, Revelations 13, I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, but spoke like a dragon. It exercised all the authority of the first beast on its behalf, and made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast whose fatal wound had been healed. That's mentioned many times, that a fatal wound was inflicted on the Antichrist, but it was miraculously healed, which is a miracle that his followers, the Antichrist followers, say, look, God smiles on our person. God has protected our person. God has healed our person. Performed great signs, causing fire to come down from heaven. It deceived the inhabitants of the earth. It ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. The second beast was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that image could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image to be killed. It also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads. I mean, how much more literal can you get? These people are wearing the mark of the beast on their foreheads. It is even the numbers 44, 45, 47, 48, or just MAGA, Make America Great Again. They could not buy or sell unless they had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of its name. All right, now we're going to wander off into Nietzsche just a little bit. Nietzsche had a bunch of maxims, about 30 sayings that he made, or 40. This is saying number 31, and how to philosophize with a hammer. When stepped on, a worm doubles up. This is clever. In that way, he lessens the probability of being stepped on again. In the language of morality, this is humility. And if you get the insinuation, the sarcasm here, when the worm is stepped on, it doubles up in pain and shrinks back, and supposedly that protects the worm. But we all know the worm can be stepped on again, and the worm is not fighting back. The worm is doing nothing but bending over and bending the knee to the power above. And that is what Nietzsche is pointing out to the Nazis, to anybody who wants to take power, is you have to be the one stepping on the worm. He considers virtues such as humility, patience, and compassion as qualities that are useful to the weak. Therefore, the weak praise qualities that ease their suffering. Aphorism 31 echoes the idea of humility serving the purpose of reducing the chances of suffering. In other words, what he's saying is Christianity, in his mind, is telling people that the weak are to be admired, which is what Christ said. The weak are the strong, or the ones who will inherit the earth. He said to support your neighbors, to love the immigrants, to love the stranger, to support other people. Nietzsche says this is a sign of the weak, and the weak tell each other this to boost each other's belief, to boost each other's pride. But actually they are boosting themselves into a losing situation, because the people with strength and who are not afraid to use their strength are the ones who will win in the end. An exact opposite of what Christ said. So the first of these examples is religion. Nietzsche tells the story of a priest who converts a man to Christianity. in order to keep him moral. However, this man eventually falls into the basic human instincts such as lust or greed, and thus is labeled a sinner. Afterwards, the man is full of hatred and is ostracized by others. The priest in this story represents the improver, which is what libtards or liberals or religious people are labeled by as Nietzsche as improvers, as he attempts to moralize someone but only makes the man's life miserable. In his understanding, by trying to make somebody a moral person, and if they fail, then they're criticized and they're bitter and they're ostracized. So why try to make somebody moral in the first place? It's a backwards set of reasoning, a backwards, upside down sense of what is right and wrong. He makes what we consider right into a wrong, helping people, being generous, being sensitive, not taking advantage of people. That to him is a weakness and is a failing, which is why most people have an opinion of Nietzsche because they don't really know exactly why, but that's where it comes from. That this is the background of who Nietzsche is. So, Tucker Carlson used to be exactly that person. That's what he used to say when he talked about MAGA and taking advantage of liberals or soft-hearted people or people who don't know how to be strong. That is the conservative feeling that strength is where you spare the rod to spoil the child. If you're kind and soft with somebody, they will not learn anything. They want physical punishment in schools. They were very upset when that was ruled out. And yet science, which they refuse or they refute, has proven over and over again that if you punish children by striking them, they learn that that is the way to get their way in the world. They learn that if you hit them to make them do what you want them to do, all they have to do is hit somebody else to get that person to do what they do. It is a vicious cycle that goes on and on and on. All right, could there be a spiritual component to this? Carlson says on the Tucker Carlson Show, is it just a conventional escalation ladder in a badly thought out war? Or could it be something bigger? Tucker always kind of goes for the final point farther than you can see. Is it possible what you're watching is a very stealthy yet incredibly effective attack on what, from a Christian perspective, is the true faith, believe in Jesus? Carlson went on, is it possible that the president sees this in bigger terms, sees this as the fulfillment of something, an elevation of some higher office beyond the President of the United States? Tucker Carlson, is beginning to be suspicious that the President is looking for something beyond the presidency of the United States. He wants to rule over all the countries in the world. Kind of the prediction of the Antichrist. When he tells Greenland tells Denmark that he wants a Greenland, just give it up. You're not going to buy it. When he tells Canada, the 51st state, just give it up. He's not going to buy it or win it. Just give it up because we're bigger and stronger than you. That is his mode of operation. That is typical. That is basically the outline of what the Antichrist became and followed through with. Trump responded in a typical petulant manner to Carlson's comments. Tucker is a low IQ person that has absolutely no idea of what's going on. He calls me all the time. I don't respond to his calls. I don't deal with him. I like dealing with smart people, not fools. So Trump is saying that Tucker Carlson still calls him. After insulting him, he's still calling him. Does anybody believe that? I mean, when the president says we have won in Iran, Iran still controls the Straits of Hormuz. Iran is still launching missiles to other states. The Secretary of War brags on how many missiles we've destroyed, how many storage areas we've destroyed, and yet the missiles keep coming. And the Straits of Hormuz basically are charging ships to go through. Before the war, there were 60 to 80 ships a day that went through the straits with no problems. Now it's 2 or 3. The most amazing thing is, and I don't know, I'd like to verify this on the news, if you saw the president said the Straits of Hormuz are now open, 2 American destroyers traveled the straits without any trouble. A review of the news said, nope, they didn't. They turned around and went back. The Iranians said, we said if you go through the straits, we will send a missile towards you. So they decided not to take the chance and turn back. So who's lying? Is the American government lying when they said that the 2 ships went through? Or are the Iranians lying when they said the 2 ships didn't go through? Somebody somewhere has got a satellite, so we'll find out in a few days. But what a situation to be placed in where you can't even believe your own government on what they're telling you is happening. It's going on over and over and over. All right, let's see. In Christian eschatology, which is basically the theology of the last days, or the science of the last days, the Antichrist is a figure or spirit prophesied to oppose Jesus Christ, falsely substitute himself as the Savior, and demand worship before the second coming. The entity is characterized by deception, lawlessness, and global power. There are 2 names for the same person who will be everything that is the very opposite of Jesus Christ, hence the Antichrist. You've heard about the new monument that's going up in Washington, taller than the Lincoln Memorial by far, almost as tall as the Washington Tower. And it has a tremendous resemblance, if you look at the plans, to actually the entire thing has a resemblance to, if you looked at Berlin in World War II, before the end of World War II, Hitler had plans for massive buildings all over Berlin and all over Germany. He had a big monument erected. He had a building erected that would be the seat of the Third Reich for the legislature from all the countries of the world. A huge building that was never completed. There are basically images, reminiscence, little trickles of what's going on now in Washington. The East Wing has been torn down. There is a monumental ballroom 3 times bigger than the White House. Another monument at the end of the reflecting pool. He is changing Washington into his own image. He is now signing, the $100 bill has his signature on it. Never been done before. He's having a gold coin struck with his face on both sides of a gold coin. Never done before for a living person. It has all the earmarks of the Antichrist. So, all right, in 2 Thessalonians, Paul refers to this person as the man of lawlessness. He puts himself in place of God's law. The Bible repeatedly points to a rising in the end times, but there have been many clearly who are Antichrist in one way or another. But there is one person who will be the distillation of opposition to our Savior, Jesus Christ. He represents all that is hostile to God. So the primary way they work is 5 ways. He opposes Christ, primarily works against God and his followers. He replaces Christ. He promotes a false peace and prosperity, deceiving many to worship him instead of God. You see these people all the time. If you watch the comedy shows, you'll see an even bigger picture of them. The Daily Show is famous. That's an evening comedy show on Comedy Central for sending a reporter out to interview these people. And the things they say, it is truly incredible. Trump can do no wrong in their face. And in fact, in this area here, farmers, with the price of diesel fuel going up, the price of fertilizer going up, the price for their commodities for corn and beans going down, and the loss of support from the USDA, they still say, well, we're going to give him a chance. We think everything is going to turn out all right. Farmers are known for being hopeful, positive, Pollyannas. The weather's going to be better next year. The disease that killed all my chickens will be gone next year. The same attitude is holding forth here. I'm not so sure that part is justified. Demands for worship, proclaims himself to be God, and sets himself up in God's temple. I brought you that quote before, where he said, people are saying that I'm the new God, and I don't know whether to believe him or not, which is another subtle way of putting the idea in people's minds. Persecution wages war against believers during the tribulation. Believers, if you've noticed, and I mentioned this to you before, they had a Good Friday service at the Pentagon. You remember what I told you about that? for Protestants only. Catholics were not invited. Catholics were not invited to the Good Friday service. What is going on in this country? I mean, it's just, and the fact that the Catholics, when they're not invited to Good Friday and the Pope is told not to come to the United States, and yet Catholics are still firm supporters, many Catholics are still firm supporters, they are worshiping the Antichrist. Deception utilizes signs and wonders to trick people. Most of his signs and wonders are just statements. We have won the war, even though there's no proof of winning the war. He says things, everything he says, is there's no justification for almost everything. So, all right, charismatic and strong, described as having a stouter appearance. Don't get me started on that. He says he's 6'3" and weighs 229 pounds. If you saw him when he was standing next to King Charles in Britain, King Charles is 6 feet tall. Trump was exactly the same height as the king. He says he weighs 229 pounds. Have you seen pictures of him sitting on his golf cart? There's no way he weighs 229 pounds. No way in the world. Attractive and magnetic, often portrayed as strikingly attractive, charismatic, making him irresistible to the masses. I don't see that as attractive. And he is charismatic, and there's something, and that is our only hope, is all of these conservative people who want to step into his place. I don't think anybody is going to believe anything they say. And what gives this guy the power to say all of these lies and still be basically kept in a position of power? I have no idea. It's something about the gullibility of the people who are looking for some kind of a leader. The same thing happened to Hitler. And I told you about the similarities there, not only in the building process in Berlin, but Hitler never slept at night. He stayed up all night and slept during the day. Kind of reminiscence of the tweets that come out through all hours of the day and night. And we don't know, well, if he sleeps during the day or if he just takes naps during his meetings. But he is definitely up during the night. So that's another characteristic. Self-exaltation and blasphemy. He will blaspheme God, claim divine status, and sit in the temple of God demanding worship. These are all descriptions in the Bible of the Antichrist, which basically we could paste right onto reality today. Global ruler and destroyer. He will hold authority over every tribe, nation, and language for a limited time. The Bible says the Antichrist is only going to be for 42 months, so we'll have to see how that comes out. Described as a brilliant, crafty leader who rises to power during a time of global instability and is compared to the tyrannical leaders of history. Intellectually and self-willed, utterly selfish, ambitious, and egotistical, focused on power. There could be no more description, more accurate description of what we're dealing with today. All right, there's more stuff here, but most of it's just a repetition of what we've already talked about. Comments or questions?
Do theologians or biblical scholars, I'm a little confused, is it an embodiment of physicality, the Antichrist, or is it conceptual, highly conceptual evil?
In Paul's, like Thessalonica and all those, they didn't actually name the Antichrist. They said there would be people, and not just one, but multiple people who would arise and would preach against Christ.
So physicality.
Yes, but Revelations talks about the Antichrist, the two-headed beast, all that stuff, which most of us kind of go poo-poo on Revelations because it's like somebody was smoking peyote or something and then having some kind of a weird dream, which I have no other explanation for it. But people try to, and particularly if you watch the fundamentalist religions, the TV preachers, they just go on forever on Revelation because you can make Revelation anything that you want it to be. I can make it about Trump. I'm sure they would never do that. But I mean, you have to, the Bible is like any other piece of literature. You can pick and choose what you want out of it and emphasize what you want. Franklin Graham says God supports us as a righteous nation, supporting righteousness in the world, and yet our righteousness is killing women and children indiscriminately. So that's, and you know, Christ, we have the words of Christ actually repeated in the Gospels, saying to welcome the foreigner, take care of the stranger, help your neighbor, put away the sword. The Pope, actually that was the Pope's response when the Republicans criticized the Pope for saying that God would never do anything, would never support anybody who supported war. And they said, oh, that's not true. David in the Old Testament committed crimes and was a warrior, and God supported him. And what the Pope says, he quoted Christ. He said, David was in the Old Testament. Christ, our leader, our Savior, is in the New Testament, and the New Testament says, put away your swords and kiss the cheek of your enemy and those who threaten you. That's what Christ said to do, and that's what Christianity. We're not Jews. We don't go by the Old Testament. The Old Testament supports what we believe and gives us a basis and a background, but we believe in the New Testament if you're a Christian, or if you've had a Christian upbringing and support the ideas of Christianity, which I think most of us do. And you don't have to believe everything. You don't have to believe in life after death. You don't have to believe in the resurrection. You can still believe that Christ was a basically miraculous teacher who brought a message to the world that was completely new and completely changed the way people look at what the world is. Before that time, power, might makes right was the adage before that time. If you had the power, you could do whatever you wanted. In Rome, the wives were basically property. Slaves were property. Children were property. The owner, the head of the household, could do whatever he wanted. He could kill people if he wanted to, and nothing would happen. That is what liberalism brings, is a sense of Christianity, a sense of people as being independent, worthy of their own dignity as an individual. It doesn't matter what color you are, what race you are, what religion you have, everybody should be treated equal. And the sad thing is to see that everybody should be treated equal turned up on its head in saying white people are being discriminated against. We ran the country for 150 years, and now too many women and too many minorities are becoming positions of power, and we want our position back. That's backwards. That's totally backwards. DEI is not a terrible thing. DEI is something we should be in favor of. DEI is something that we should support. And we can't be confronted and chastised and chased away from DEI. So, okay. Is this something that was boring, bad, good? You want to do more of this? I mean, I'm not a theologian, and I don't approach it from a theologian's point, and I get buried in the theologians, and that's what I tell my wife. When she first started studying for the ministry, what's the guy's name? I can't remember his name now. There was some theologian that she was studying and saying what a tremendous intellect and what a tremendous thinker he was, so I was reading like 3 or 4 pages. It was like mud. I had no idea what he was talking about. And the same thing, I've got like 4 or 5 pages here that by mistake I highlighted to put in today's thing. And you know, sometimes when you highlight something, it goes way up higher in the page than you plan it. So there was like 3 pages of stuff that I printed out, but I had no idea what these people are talking about, and I'm sure they do. But that's not what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about, at least I'm going to talk about stuff that's relevant to our lives and to the future of the country. So, okay, offering. Years are coming. If you have something to put in, please do. If you need something, let us know. more DEI than that. From all those that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung through every land by every tongue. Can't we just get along? Didn't somebody say that in Los Angeles? Yes, Rodney. All right, closing hymn, number 10, Immortal Love. Interior Department. The forest, the people that control the forestry, that whole department is being eliminated. That entire department, they're moving the headquarters to someplace in Utah. They're firing all of the people in the regional headquarters. The only people left will be 7 or 8 political appointees to judge the Forest Service. The Forest Service is being eliminated. It's like things are happening that we're hardly even aware of because there's so much going on. It will be, if we regain our sanity, it's going to take years to build things back. The people that are being fired and lost. Heard about the landing of the NASA circumnavigation of the moon. NASA's budget is being cut in a major way. All these plans NASA had to go to Mars and land on the moon and everything else, they aren't going to do it with government money.
What's the rationale for forestry elimination?
I think it's because they want to sell all the national forests and national land to private people. That's the stated goal, and that's what the conservatives want. There's no reason for the country to own all these forest lands when they can sell the trees. They can take the lumber off and sell the trees. They want to open up uranium mines in national monuments. They want to mine for gold, lithium, any other the needed things. It's basically the robber barons take over the world and do whatever they want in any way they can make money. It's so. Another example is the Straits of Hormuz. One of the statements from the president, the Iranians are charging $1 million a ship to go through. maybe we can work with the Iranians and we'll get $1 million a ship and they'll get $1 million a ship. He actually said this, that we'll work out a deal with the Iranians so we'll get half the money that people pay to go through.
He likes deals.
He wants money. And this is part of the Antichrist. When I talk about the Antichrist, he basically is strip mining the entire United States for his own. The steel that's going into the new ballroom, did you hear about that?
Foreign steel.
It's from Acelor, it's foreign steel. He said he was going to boost American production and buy only American. The steel it's being given for free, and he said it's being given for free, that's why we're taking it from Acelor. 2 days later, Acelor had all their tariffs eliminated and they ship in steel from Europe because they've given him a bribe for his building. Now they don't have to pay tariffs to ship their steel in and compete with American steel.
It almost sounds self-serving.
It is so, it is in public. What is happening is right in front of our eyes. And the Democrats or other people are saying, look what's happening, and the Republicans just bury their head in the sand and say, if we say anything against them, we'll be primaried out of our jobs. Hey, stand up for America, not for your dang job. Okay. And if anybody has complained about being too political, these are times that call for, it's not just political, this is for the salvation of the country. It's for our future and our kids' future and our grandkids' future. Our calling in the world. We have come to the end of our service, but not our calling in the world. We close our time together with the humble reminder that justice and equity are our spiritual practices to embrace. Each day, every day, we are blessed to be the embodiment of what is possible when justice and equity ground us in all that we do. May we go forth with light and warmth of our chalice in our hearts until we are together again. The words of one of my favorite authors in the Unitarian Church, Rebecca Savage. And postlude, Biding My Time, and Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. There's some pretty confusing stuff going on with that. The first horse is a white horse, and that's supposed to be the Antichrist. And then you've got the horse of blood and death, the red horse, the black horse of destruction, and the pale horse of disease and death by disease. So a lot of people spend a lot of time thinking on this and coming up with some pretty bizarre stuff. Okay. Biding My Time. All right, donuts and what were the things you made?
Cornbread.
Cornbread, yes. Cornbread and butter is out there. We need to eat that up. It's pretty good too. I had a couple last week, and they're still good. They were in the freezer, but they'll be good now. So we'll leave our one candle lit as is standard for all of those people who aren't here, but maybe here in spirit. And if anybody needs anything, let us know.
You don't suppose that really the image of that is the entrance. Or is it simply a very sad key? Or it could be like a very sad key. And that's why we covered difficulties here.
It looks like a lion to me.
A sad lion.
Yeah.
Is it a sad lion or a sad kitty?
It looks like a sad lion to me. But that's, these things, one of these things hit you in the bottom one of the weeds windows.
Well, what's the globe up there on both sides? What does that signify? Because I never noted that before.
The globe, actually, you know, that looks like it looks like the Wizard of Oz.
And then the brackets. I love the brackets. I love the way they made the sky in these windows.
Yes.
And those horizontals going up there and those diagonals are really
But
neat.
these two bottom ones here look like what's the Indian snake in India?
Oh,
You guys made a crystal ball or something.
yeah.
It looks like the snake with the hood.
Isn't that Vishnu? No, it's not Vishnu. What is it?
No, it's about this, not a python. What's the name of the snake?
Cobra?
Cobra, yeah. Look at cobra. With the big
The
eyes.
designs must have been cheaper than those.
So it's almost like
they would have put.
These
it's like the Antichrist was involved in designing our windows.
Yeah, you kind of wonder about the eyes and stuff.
Yes, because that just looks like a sad lion.
Yeah.
It just looks sad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think these are really.
And what was the idea?
They think they were just
Seeing rid of these.
Uh,
That's what I told my wife when she was here, just developing
Because
that
it's like voice
standard Christian
constitution,
symbology,
dedication,
flowers.
Yeah.
But I said, that maybe.
Somebody's gonna donate some money.
Yeah.
And you know, there are
It looks like
dedications
it's like a
there.
cobra.
Yeah.
Now it's in the basement, but those.
You wonder, was one guy that designed all these, or was it a team of
Yeah,
people?
yeah, well, there is
Yeah,
Yeah, Usually it's,
Maybe it was a state company.
I think it's like Tiffany or whatever, they have a whole bunch of designs, and when you go in as a church to buy them,
Yeah.
you just pick them out.
Yeah.
So it's whoever was on the committee at the church that bought the windows.
Yeah.
I mean, the designer didn't design to this thing, they just went in and said, we'll take this and this and this.
Yeah.
And that's what they did.
Yeah.
Because those are actually, I'm assuming the names of the donors are supposed to be in those blank spaces there.
Yeah.
Every color, like Timmy's pants, Lee's pants, don't have any of pinks and that kind of.
No, you don't see it.
Yeah, why they chose that, I have no idea. You think they would have chosen the colors that were in